Commander D.C.Ferrier is with us today. Mr. Ferrier was an 18-year-old radioman gunner in one of 6 Torpedo Avenger aircraft that launched from Midway Island and were the first planes to strike the Japanese fleet. 5 of the 6 aircraft were shot down, with all hands being lost. Mr. Ferrier and his pilot, Lieutenant Bert Ernest, were the only members of the strike to survive.
Then on the morning of June the 4th, we were up as normal about 6 a.m. to check our airplanes, make sure everything was okay. And a Marine officer climbed up on the wing of the airplane and talked to the pilot and told him that a Japanese force had been sighted at a distance of 150 miles west from Midway. So their engines going, taxied out, and we took off and flew into formation on the bearing and distance that we had been given. And it wasn't too long till the turret gunner again called on the intercom and said, "We are under attack by Japanese aircraft." You could hear the bullets hit the airplane, kind of like ice on a tin roof would sound. Then I heard the turret gunner firing his gun a couple of times, and then he stopped. So I turned around and looked over my shoulder, and I could see that the turret gunner, Jay Manning, was now slumped into his harnesses, and there was a lot of blood coming off of him. Then for me, the next thing, put my hand up and could feel a part of my skull which had been opened up, and quite a bit of blood was pouring down over my gun and me. And then he kept flying on toward Midway. Then he's got himself lined up with a runway using the control system that he still had available to him. The landing gear did not come down completely. He realized it was not all the way down. But at the right time, he took the power off, and as soon as the one good wheel was on the runway, the airplane ground looped off of the runway onto the sand.
That particular generation didn't talk about what they did. It isn't really, and it was only whenever the 50th anniversary of Midway came about that we started hearing some of the stories. And so that was really the first time that we were exposed to what he had actually been doing and what his 30-year career composed of. Incredibly proud of him.
It's hard to believe that the educated, honest people really think that's the way to settle things, is to go out killing each other. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, you know, that's one reason I've stayed active and I talk about what I've gone through, and particularly I always like people to remember those men who were with me and gave up their lives to preserve our freedom.
I feel blessed that we're in a position to be with him when he shares his story and when he tells all of the various things that he did. And what you heard is just the tip of the iceberg of what he achieved. I wouldn't trade what we'd had as we grew up in our childhood, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm very, very proud of my dad.